Hello, and welcome back to Punctual Politics. I'm Senior Opinion Editor Dawson Iasillo.
And I'm Opinion Writer Jackson Hatcher.
And I'm Natalie Hill, Senior News Editor. Getting into this episode's topic, on March 23rd, the Nebraska Supreme Court ruled that the Democratic Senate candidate Cindy Burbank was wrongly removed from the ballot. To back up, she was removed after Secretary of State Bob Evnen declared that she wasn't a good faith candidate, and we'll get into that a little bit, but essentially, if you go to her website, you can see she has a lot of support for independent candidate Dan Osborne on there, and she also is pretty vocal about the fact that she is more so running to kind of split votes away and make it easier for Osborne to potentially win rather than running on a hope to win and serve in this position. And this decision to remove her came after the Nebraska Republican Party sent him a letter urging him to remove her. So Burbank then sued in Lancaster County, and the suit was dismissed, so then she appealed to the Nebraska Supreme Court, where she eventually won. And the grounds for that decision were basically that the objections were untimely and thus invalid. So the candidate filing form that she filled out was valid, and so she has to be included, essentially. This is because in Nebraska, we have a 7-day period for written objections to these filings. Since she filed on May 2nd and no objections were made by May 9th, she has to be included on the ballot. And then for a little bit of context here, there was speculation that Republicans wanted Burbank removed because she'll be against William Forbes. And then another layer of speculation, there's some speculation that Forbes was kind of a plant in the Democratic race from Ricketts to split votes and make it more likely for Ricketts to win. So then in turn, people believe that Burbank is running to split votes away from Forbes, so it's more likely that Osborne will win. So kind of some layers there, but that's basically what everyone is thinking. So my first question to you guys is, do you find it likely that the initial, move to remove her from the ballot was a calculated move from Republicans?
Yeah, I mean, political parties do this all the time where they'll support a candidate for another party because they think that it'll weaken their opponent. And that is absolutely the case. Like, if Burbank wins, she has said that she'll drop out. So that there'll be no Democrat in the general election, and that will be better for Dan Osborne, right? And, parties do this all the time. There was speculation that in Texas, Republicans flooded a lot of money into Jasmine Crockett's Senate race because they thought that she would be an easier candidate to run against than her opponent in the primary, right. James Tallarico.
Yeah.
I think, absolutely, it was a move to try and, make P. Ricketts better off,
Yeah, politics is just a calculated game anyways. I mean, to be successful in the world of politics, you have to be calculated. So, yeah, I do think this is a calculated move, but I also don't think it's an unreasonably calculated move.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think it's super far-fetched to make that move that the GOP made.
No, I mean, I will say I don't necessarily disagree with the idea that, should we be, fielding bad faith candidates, which I think it's safe to say that she kind of is.
Yeah.
That's a good, I wouldn't disagree with the Republican Party here, but I would also say we know that you don't actually care.
Yeah.
This isn't about protecting the democratic process. It's worse off for you.
Right.
She's doing a trick to make your party weaker,
Yeah.
and you're pretending to be high-minded about it to
make
your party stronger. I mean, it's not because you care about the democratic process or anything, right?
Yeah, for sure. And then kind of similar question, just a little bit refocused. Do you kind of buy into the theory, I guess, or believe that Forbes is a plant within the Democratic race from Ricketts?
Well, I wouldn't say that it's he's in cahoots with Ricketts or a secret agent in his campaign or something. But, Forbes is a guy with his own, political opinions and thoughts. And I think it's pretty clear that, well, one, he's not running because he thinks he would be best for the Democratic Party, because the Democratic Party in Nebraska has said, well, we're not going to field a candidate,
Right.
So if he was truly interested in representing the Democratic Party for Nebraska, he would, listen to the Democratic Party in Nebraska. But, regardless of how true it is that he is like in cahoots with Ricketts, he's certainly like ideologically aligned more with Ricketts than he is with Dan Osborne.
Yeah, I don't know if I would necessarily go as far to say that I believe that Ricketts planted him, but I don't think that it's totally off to say that Forbes could potentially be another not good faith candidate.
Yeah, because like, I mean, Forbes isn't a stupid guy. He probably knows that the Democratic candidate isn't gonna win regardless, right? So, I mean, why would he be running? I would say probably because he doesn't want Dan Osborne to win.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, for sure. So we saw Burbank was allowed to be on the ballot reinstated because of those like deadline technicalities. Mm-hmm. Do you think if those weren't part of the equation, it's likely she would have been removed from the ballot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. Because I mean, it's pretty cut and dry. I think you would be you'd be jumping through tons of legal like loopholes and arguments and doing mental gymnastics to say that she's like a good faith candidate who wants to, be a senator. And it as far as I'm aware, it's a fairly simple procedure. If someone argues you're not a good faith candidate and the attorney general is like, yeah, no, you're not a good faith candidate, then you're out. So like, without those procedural hurdles, she would probably be off the ballot.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, Nebraska's a very red state, and so there's a lot of times where Republicans usually mend together, and so I think if it wasn't for the deadline, she probably would be removed, and I don't necessarily think it would be a bad thing if she was removed. However, I think this decision was the right decision. Mm-hmm. They didn't meet the deadlines. Yeah. The government made the criteria. They didn't meet their own criteria. I don't know what to tell you. Life happens.
And that's a interesting thing to me. How do you mess that up?
Yeah. I mean, you made it.
I don't know how they could have like been late. That blows my mind.
Yeah.
Part of this whole thing feels like it's like a very like shadowy like like it could be in like a bad episode of like West Wing or something.
Yeah, for sure.
But then I'm like, well, then why'd you fall flat on your face and literally just miss a deadline? That just seems like comic incompetence. But
well, that's often what it feels like living in Nebraska. But
I guess that's not that surprising then.
Yeah, you guys touched on this, both of you, a little bit, but like, what do you make of, I guess, this concept of like having bad faith candidates, I guess? Like, is that something you think we should be platforming?
I go back and forth because I think it's very easy for an attorney general, if they just don't like a person, to say, oh yeah, bad faith. And mm-hmm. I think that decision can get carried away very easily. But I also do think that there should be the standard that if you're going to run for office, you should do it with the intention of working for the people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I bet City Burbank would say, well, I am not a bad faith candidate because I am playing against like a trick from this other guy who's not running in good faith.
Right.
Because, I maybe he could push back on this or whatever, but the other guy is probably not running in good faith. He's only really running to split votes.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, if he did get enough votes, would he, go on to, work in the Senate? Well, maybe, but, we can't really know because he won't win.
Things like this are complicated because I can think of it as at the logical standpoint of, yeah, this can get carried away really quickly. But then I have my own moral standpoint where, no, I think if you're going to run, then you should do it the right way. But also I go back to logic, and unfortunately I am human, and I think, well, if you can do it, then I can do it.
Yeah.
Kind of mentality.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't know. I'm not so down on Burbank's decision because she's being very upfront about what she plans to do. So if enough people vote for her, then I think
she's more honest than most political candidates.
Yeah, like,
so
is it bad faith if enough people vote for her when she's fully transparent about like the trick she's trying to play? I don't know, because anyone who votes for her is obviously
aware.
they know what they're doing. They're playing the game too, right?
The
I
thing
don't think
that's-
anyone would vote for her, like see what her campaign is, which is like, oh, I'm gonna drop out if you elect me, and be like, what? She dropped out?
I mean, the thing that is scary about that, though, is that there's people that have been registered as a Democrat for their whole lives and would walk in and just vote for D down the ballot. And same with Republicans. There's plenty of Republicans who do the same thing. And so that does get a little dangerous and tricky because there are people who wouldn't look up the campaign and know that.
I guess that is true. Yeah, that is a good point.
Unfortunately, people aren't as politically acclimated as we would hope.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dawson, you kind of mentioned you felt like it would be easy for someone to just kind of be like declared bad faith, like in an unideal scenario. What do you think like the burden of proof, I guess, should be there?
More than just whatever the Attorney General feels.
For sure.
Right? I mean, like the fact that they're like, this is who we get to vote for. I mean, I don't think it should just be like the vibe of like literally anyone can file a complaint, and the Attorney General can look at a complaint and just decide. And that just, it blows my mind. Like most other things, like, yeah, I mean, I guess they are a law enforcement, like, not a law enforcement, like they are like a legal, like, guy, like a authority, right, in the state. So like it's not the worst thing, but also like there should be more steps than just
absolutely,
two people have a vibe. Because you could get into a situation where like literally two people can decide who you get to vote for.
And I think even questioning the candidate wouldn't be a bad idea, like as a part of the steps. I mean, really questioning and grilling a person can get a lot of information out. I mean, it's what we do in like Supreme Court cases and congressional hearings, and so I don't think that could be a bad idea either.
Yeah. Last question for you guys, kind of similar, but do you think that these like good faith, rulings, like, is there a way to make it where it's not just like subjective, like vibe you were talking about?
I mean, there's probably, I mean, if like, I think like a trial, like having like a jury or like a grand jury or something, look at the evidence and see like, do they intend to take office? Are they running an actual campaign? Are they doing what's expected of a campaign, like doing stops, talking about their policies? I think a process like that would be good, but I'm not going to say like, oh, what should the criteria be? Because like,
I don't know if there's a set list of criteria that could work across the board. I think like you said, like having a trial, I mean, trials aren't necessarily all uniformed. There's guidelines and, minimum amount of sentencing or punishment, whatever the case may be. But they're all somewhat up to interpretation.
Yeah, I mean,
every case is somewhat up to interpretation, and that's why we elect the people who decide that, is because we trust them to make that decision.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the Attorney General would probably argue like, well, Nebraskans elected me, right?
Right.
So they put their faith in me, but like that's like,
but that's not
that
enough.
is an authoritarian argument,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So like, I think when it comes to like who we get to vote for, we should have final say,
For sure.
Not, some guy who says that he's embodying what we want or what faith we put in him,
Yeah, thanks, guys. Thank you for tuning into Punctual Politics. Just a reminder that the views expressed on this podcast do not represent the views of the Daily Nebraskan as a whole.
Be sure to follow us on socials and on YouTube at The Daily Nebraskan, and be sure to check out our channel for new episodes every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday.